And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Bulletin for July 27th. Well, here we are on the 208th day of the year, and only one system remains active at this time, and that is Tropical Storm Info, which continues to move extremely slowly inland in China at this moment, now down to a weaker tropical storm at this point. 43 storms have formed so far this year. It's day 57 of Atlantic hurricane season, and Invest 90L is now down to a 10% chance of formation. As it draws completely near land, those chances should go down to 0, if not already. Switching it over to the Pacific, there's a lot to talk about. We have that area of interest south of Mexico that remains 40% at this time. We also have a new area of interest a few hundred miles south-southwest of the Baja area. That's at 20% at this moment, and we are still going with 30% for Invest 90C for continuity's sake. That will likely be going down to 0 soon enough as well. In the Western Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Info continuing inland. We also have 3 other AOIs, Nepartak with a 20% chance and decreasing chance of formation. The Western AOI you see there has a 30, and the one in the Western Central Pacific has a 10% at this time. In the North Indian Ocean, nothing much going on here as to be expected, given the fact we are in that gap where we don't really see much in terms of any kind of activity. That is going to be the case as we head into August, which is of course now 5 days away. Here is the North Atlantic satellite imagery. Not much really to see. You can hardly see 90L there just because of the fact it's been struggling with northwesterly shear as well as dry air. Frictional convergence hasn't really been helping it much, so really it's just gone at this point. Not really much of a chance at all now. In the Eastern Pacific, you can kind of see what's going on with that new AOI there. 20% is what we're giving that. Not much to say about 90C there. Used to be 90AE. It's extremely disorganized. Convective activity has been decreasing. So 30% is definitely generous with this one. In the Western Pacific, you can clearly see info there, inland China, and then of course extratropical storm Nepartak there, aiming towards Japan. It's already cancelled / delayed some of the events in the Olympics right now. Of course, the women's triathlon is one of the events that has been delayed with Nepartak's rainfall in Japan. In the North Indian Ocean, the average monsoon activity going around in the Bay of Bengal, the Arabian Sea, looking a little bit more quiet than it did yesterday. But regardless, it's what you would typically expect at this time of year. Nothing too out of the norm for this region. Here we are going into Infa now, which continues to slowly weaken. Not weakening very fast. It's dealing with some very flat terrain, which is helping it keep some of its strength and its large size. Definitely helping with that maintaining of strength right now. Eventually, it will slowly weaken down to a remnant low eventually. Here are the sea surface temperatures. Those 30 degrees Celsius isotherms are appearing more towards the coastal waters of Mexico. Also seems to be the case as you go into the Gulf of Mexico. Those 30 degrees Celsius appear to be popping up a little bit more than what we've been seeing in recent weeks. The main development region continues to warm up as well as the Gulf Stream, with more areas around 28 to 29 degrees Celsius, unless you're in the southern Caribbean where it's still around 25 to 26 there. That is probably going to be warming up at some point. It's just a matter of when this will occur. In the North Indian Ocean, we're still looking at those 28 to 29 degrees Celsius temperatures in the Bay of Bengal. Those temperatures are a little bit more hostile as you enter into the Arabian Sea. As you get into the Western Pacific, those 29 to 30 degrees Celsius are pretty much taking over a large portion of the Western Pacific, although as you get into where Infa has been, those temperatures are much cooler, around 25 to 26 degrees Celsius there. And then, of course, the Southern Hemisphere is still pretty cool, as you would expect, as it is the end of July there. Not much to be expected in terms of any kind of warmth there. Here are the sea surface temperature anomalies, and the first thing you can quite clearly see is how massively warmer than normal the Sea of Japan is, over 7 to 8 degrees Celsius above normal, and that applies to much of the subtropics where they're really above 2 to 3 degrees normal at the very least, all the way into the Pacific and even into the Atlantic there. On this day in 1969, we had Typhoon Viola, which was pretty much striking the northern Luzon area. inflow would later cause it to weaken due to the lack of it, and it would eventually hit China as a minimal typhoon, but regardless, it still killed over 1,000 people with that system. Ana had also just formed as a tropical storm in the main development region as well. You can find more of our On This Day products on our Twitter, powered by Cyclone History. You can find their Twitter tag on the bottom of your screen. And that is where we will be ending tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And with that, here are the next names, seemingly far away now that we have seen those invest fail. The next name in the Atlantic is now Fred, followed by Grace. In the Eastern Pacific, it's Hilda, followed by Ignacio. And in the Central Pacific, guess what? You thought 90C would become something, you thought wrong. It's still going to be Hone for a while to come. In the Western Pacific, it's Lupit, followed by Marine, although of course, Nepartak should have been next. Oh well, I suppose. In the North Indian Ocean, it's Gulab, followed by Shaheen. And moving on to the Southern Hemisphere, the next names in the Southwest Indian Ocean are Ana, followed by Batsire. In the Australian region, we're looking out for Patty and Ruby. And in the South Pacific, it's Cody. We'll be back for another Tropical Weather Bulletin tomorrow night.